that the video of Maduro dancing in the days leading up to the raid really bugged him.
He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit.
Well, Happy New Year, Kenya, and welcome to 2026, a year that comes with a countdown clock that no one wants to admit they are watching, because whether they admit it or not, whether you say it loud or not, campaign season has officially begun. You can feel it in the sudden press conferences. You can see it there. You can see it in the consultative meetings, in the leaders who are now very, very concerned about wananchi. It is 1 year or so to the election. That magical window where everyone remembers the people, the poor, and the youth. Suddenly, leaders are walking more, visiting more, discovering markets they didn't know existed last year or the year before. Roads are being inspected, projects are being launched, presidents are being abducted, and as the political volume goes up, we're here to do what we always do: separate performance from policy and noise from substance. My name is Willis Raburu, and this is Hold My Mic, Drop the Beat!
Hold my mic. Hold my mic, hold my mic, yo, hold my mic, hey, hold my mic, hold my mic, hey, hold my mic, hold my mic.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first political soap opera of 2026, live from the Orange Democratic Movement, starring Edwin Sifuna and Junet Mohammed. Yes, this is the drama we all needed in January, so buckle up. It all started with a question, one that will surely echo through party offices and dining room debates alike. Who ate Uhuru's money? It wasn't a philosophical question, it was a literal one. Where did the campaign cash go? Question thrown into the ring by none other than ODM's own Secretary General, Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Wengine walikula pesa ya Uhuru Kenyatta sawasawa. Mimi najua kama katibu mkuu, pesa nyingi ambaye tulifanyia campaign ilikuwa inatoka kwa Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta. Alitusupport kihali na mali, ni ukweli. Lakini sasa si saa hii kuna mshenzi mmoja ametambua kwamba kuna ubaya ya pesa ya Uhuru Kenyatta. Nataka niulize Junet. Wewe Junet, pesa ya Uhuru ilianza kuwa mbaya siku gani?
Speaking at a funeral, because where else do you start a political fight? Sifuna accused Suna East Member of Parliament Junet Mohammed of mishandling funds donated by former President Uhuru Kenyatta. And this was meant to support the late Raila Odinga's 2022 presidential campaign. Now, and when I say that mishandling, I don't mean lost the receipt. I mean eating the money ahead of paying agents. Sifuna's words, really, not mine. He literally said Junet kept some cash for himself and his women. Ouch.
Siku ile ulikuwa unachukua hiyo pesa na hata yote hukuleta kwa chama. Ingine ulikula peke yako na mabibi yako. Siku ile tutaanza audit ya uchaguzi wa mwaka 2022. Ni vizuri umeanzisha hiyo debate, kila mtu aseme ile kazi alifanya 2022. Wewe ulikuwa unakula pesa ya Uhuru, badala ulipe agents, ukaacha hawa kina Wamunyoro wakatupiga 10-0. Saa hii tunalia huko nje. Kama sio wewe Junet, tungekuwa kwa serikali. So mimi huwezi nitisha bwana. Hawezi kunitisha.
Now, Sifuna even suggested that if Junet had done his job properly, that is, paid the election agents on time, ODM might be in government today. In other words, 2022 wasn't lost to policy or strategy, it was lost at the cash register. Now, Junet didn't just sit there and take the blame. No. He fired back. Now, Junet claims Uhuru and his brother Muho Kenyatta were the real problem. He says the money was mishandled even before ODM ever saw it, basically blaming the middlemen rather than the party itself. So now we have a classic political triangle. Sifuna says Junet ate the money. Junet says Uhuru gave it to the wrong people. And Raila, if he were here, would be somewhere in the middle wondering how his funeral turned into a budgeting session. But wait, it gets better. Some members of ODM were so ruffled by Sifuna's public accusations that Migori Senator Eddie Okech actually filed a motion to de-whip and expel him from the party. And just when he thought that motion would tear the party apart, it was withdrawn after party elders urged leaders to sit down and talk. Now, even Mama Ida Odinga stepped in, reminding everyone that Baba used to consult before making decisions. You know, old-fashioned dialogue instead of public spats.
Raila ran ODM on principle of constant consultations.
and always referring to the people.
But somehow this saga isn't just about money anymore. It's about legacy, loyalty, embarrassment, and very fragile egos in a party that is still trying to figure out its identity after losing its towering leader. Because this is what happens when internal party squabbles leak out in public. You don't solve the problem. No, you don't. You just create two camps and a million, literally a million arguments. See what I did there? Now, let's talk about public service announcement that nobody asked for, but somehow everybody received. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gashagwa has officially appointed himself Chief Historian of the 2022 elections and Senior Warning Officer for Luansa. And according to him, there is a very important lesson the Luo community must learn from Mount Kenya.
Mimi naona Wajaluo pale akiwadanganya. Anasalimu hao. Jodhurua untie. Jodhurua umo. Nyinyi Wajaluo, ulizeni sisi. Alikuwa hapa. Niliona juzi huko anajifundisha kupika samaki ndio Wajaluo wampende. Hapa alikuwa amejua mpaka kutengeneza mutura. This man is a conman. He's the greatest conman on earth.
Now, Gashagwa says, ladies and gentlemen, that before the 2022 election, President William Ruto practically moved into Mount Kenya, not metaphorically, physically, spiritually, emotionally. According to Rigathi, Ruto spent 6 out of 7 days every week in Mount Kenya, church to church, fundraiser to fundraiser, handshake to handshake. He learned the language, he learned the jokes, he learned when to say, Wamama hamujambo, and when to say, Modoanyoba. By election day in 2022, Ruto wasn't a visitor, he was practically an altar server. And the offerings, hefty contributions, big envelopes, smile that said, Tuko pamoja toe hamwe. Mount Kenya believed, they voted, they delivered, and then Ruto won. According to Gashagwa, that's when the relationship changed. Suddenly, the visits reduced. The language sessions, they stopped. The churches stopped seeing him every Sunday. And Mount Kenya people woke up one morning like someone who sent a good morning text and received a blue tick.
The people of the mountain are very good people. They are very trusting. And they are very kind. And they are very loving. They return love with love. They return kindness with kindness. They are very forgiving, but they don't forget.
So now, and this is where it gets hilarious, Gachagua has taken it upon himself to warn the Luo community. He says Ruto is now doing the exact same thing in Luo Nyanza, visiting, smiling, eating local food, saying the right things, laughing a little hard at jokes even he doesn't fully understand.
Mwani Yesu isomi ywe. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Hebu nione kwamba mikono Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Aya.
And Gashagwa is basically saying, my Luo brothers and sisters, we have seen this movie. We paid for the tickets. We cried at the end. And I'm telling you, I'm an honest man. He's telling them, don't be impressed by visits. Don't be impressed by donations. Don't be impressed by someone suddenly learning how to pronounce Joturua correctly. Joturua by the way means what way to. Because according to Rigathi, once the votes are counted, the romance ends. So here we are, a former deputy president doing political consumer education, warning one region about political free trials. Enjoy the attention. But read the terms and conditions, he says, because in Kenya, politics, my friend, campaign season is like dating somebody who texts a lot. And then he disappears immediately after the relationship status changes. And the irony, Gashagwa is not denying that the strategy works. He's just saying it worked on us first, which makes this less of an accusation and more of a testimonial. So as Luo Nyanza listens politely, as Mount Kenya nods aggressively, and as Ruto continues touring like a man collecting loyalty points, one thing is clear, 2027 campaigns have already started. The speeches are warming up. The warnings are flying, and Kenya, yes, our beloved country, is once again being advised to vote with both eyes Opun, because apparently history doesn't repeat itself, it just changes regions. Ladies and gentlemen, let's switch gears and talk about miracles for a minute. I'm talking big, divine, headline-grabbing miracles. You know, the kind that makes leaders raise eyebrows and ministers roll up their sleeves. I'm talking about Prophet David Owuor's Nakuru Crusade, where the Lord allegedly cured HIV, cancer, blindness, deafness, muteness, and even boredom. Now, this man of faith, who once left a career as a scientist in the US to become the mighty prophet back home, brought thousands to Nakuru at the end of December, claiming miracles that blurred the line between faith, hope, and a medical emergency. At the crusade, some people walked again. Some were said to be cured of serious diseases. Some doctors even took the stage to validate these miraculous claims.
I'm a senior clinician from Siaya.
My name is Dr. Lerionka Albert. I am a consultant eye surgeon. My name is Dr. Erimoy Kibet. From Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. My name is Dr. John Mureithi.
But here's a twist. When your miracles require medical testimony, you've crossed the faith into explanation. You've crossed, rather, from faith to explanation, because Kenya's health regulators and church leaders were not impressed, and they made it known.
Any claims of miraculous healing, and more so by licensed medical practitioners, must be supported by verifiable and scientifically proved.
Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale said very calmly but firmly that matters of life and health must remain evidence-based, not anecdote-based. He said that spiritual faith is fine, but faith replacing science in HIV or cancer care, that's not divine. That's dangerous. Then came the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council. A mouthful, but it is KMPDC. They looked at the testimonies from Owuor's crusade and said, with all the seriousness of someone who deals with antibiotics and ethics, that unless this miracle has a lab report, we are calling it suspicious and reckless. And yes, that included doctors who endorsed the miracle claims. They could now face investigations and penalties because calling HIV and cancer miraculously cured without verification is not just controversial, it's potentially deadly. Now, to add another layer of complexity, the National Council of Churches of Kenya, that is NCCK, weighed in saying they believe in divine healing, sure, but it must not replace real treatment. They reminded Kenyans that it is God who heals, not pastors that hand out miracle diagnoses like flyers at a border stage, which give you a pretty funny yet very serious picture. A preacher talks miracles. Some medics reluctantly nod on stage. The health ministry and regulators roll out subpoenas, and a church association says that one doesn't speak for all of us. That one we will see way to sana. Let's be honest. In Kenya, where millions depend on evidence-based treatment for chronic diseases like HIV and AIDS, claiming miracles without science isn't inspiring, it's irresponsible. But here's the part that really takes the cake. Now, this whole debate is happening just as the government and the church bodies were already discussing a bill to regulate religious institutions after Shakahola. Remember that? Partly to protect the citizens from misinformation and from harm. And now, Owuor's crusade is suddenly in the spotlight, raising the old questions again. Where do we draw the line between faith and public health? Because once you start diagnosing miracles the same way you diagnose pneumonia, you end up with pastors and doctors fighting over whose stethoscope works. And if a miracle is real, surely it would come with a test result, a signature, and maybe a receipt from SHA, right? So whether you believe in the supernatural intervention or you think this way, and this was just a very persuasive motivational event, one thing is certain. Prophet Owuor's Nakuru spectacle didn't just spark chatter, it lit up health policy debates, church councils, medical ethic panels, all while reminding Kenyans that when faith meets paperwork, the paperwork usually wins. Speaking of miracles, big news this week. President Donald Trump has announced a very successful U.S. operation in Venezuela, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and, get this, bringing him back to the U.S. to face charges. Yes, that's right, folks. Maduro is now in a courtroom in New York, And man, I tell you, I know it's surreal. It's like if Mission Impossible met Law and Order and Tom Cruise was replaced by a guy with a comb over, or Inspector Mueller. And in his press remarks, Trump said the United States is now going to run Venezuela for a while, which that is a bold move. Because you see, usually when a country runs another country, they call that an invasion. But Trump rebranded it an operation where we're on a long vacation in Venezuela. Take a listen.
We are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious, because that's what we're all about.
Now, Trump also said he's not afraid of boots on the ground, which sounds like the name of a bad country song that Jeff Koinange would probably love to sing. I'm not afraid of boots on the ground. As long as they're comfy and they have great support of people. And Congress is also a little confused. The Senate passed a war powers resolution saying Trump can't do more military actions in Venezuela without approval, which is ironic because Trump thought that war powers was actually just the name of an energy drink. It's a great energy drink. It's called War Powers. It gives me the power. Seriously, though, it's wild. The UN Security Council had to condemn this one. Leaders around the world also said, hey, maybe you shouldn't just get into another country and take their president. Could you stop doing that, please? Which only one other person in history has actually never said that. And that person's name is Donald Trump. And get this. Trump has said that Venezuela's vast oil resources are now going to be rebuilt and turned into revenue, which sounds great, except U.S. oil companies have to ask, are we running a country? Are we going to sell gas? Who's doing this business for us? Because this is not what we signed up for. Now, some of you are thinking about how this could happen to your own country. I'm just saying, the more we get these things unchecked, then maybe, just maybe, the U.S. could sweep in anywhere. So buckle up, America. Whether you're following international law or just following the news, one thing is clear. You have an interesting president. And believe me, I use interesting just for my own safety. And that, Kenya, is another week in the life of this country, full of drama, full of nonsense, just enough chaos to keep life a little bit interesting. Remember, politics isn't just about headlines you read, it's about the ones you don't see coming. Like that soup, who saw that coming? So question everything, laugh often, and never let reality get boring, because things could get ugly quick. All right, my name is Willis Raburu, reminding you that nothing this country stays quiet for long except maybe common sense. Peace out. It's been Hold My Mic.
Ukiona pale binadamu ameabudiwa, anaoshwa mkono, anaoshwa miguu, anaoshewa barabara, hiyo barabara ni barabara ya kuelekea kwa shetani.
Hold my mic, yeah, hold my mic, hold my mic, hold my mic, hold my mic.